Hello everyone! My name is Melody D. Miguel, second year MIDE student at the University of Southern Mindanao Graduate School. In this video, I am going to discuss learning and cognition in the content areas focusing on lesson 22, the expert knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge in reading, writing, mathematics, science, and social studies. This is one of the requirements in advanced psychology under Professor Christine Garcia. So the topics that I am going to discuss here are the following. Number 1, expert knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge. Number 2, how reading develops and discuss some useful approaches to teaching reading. 3. How writing develops and discuss some useful approaches to teaching writing. 4. How mathematical thinking develops and identify some issues related to teaching mathematics. 5. The challenges and strategies related to teaching children how to think scientifically. And then the last one, that's how learning in social studies is becoming more constructivist. So at the end of the discussion, we are able to distinguish between expert knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge. Number 2, explain how reading develops and discuss some useful approaches to teaching reading. Number 3, describe how writing develops and discuss some useful approaches to teaching writing. 4, characterize how mathematical thinking develops and identify some issues related to teaching mathematics. 5. Identify some challenges and strategies related to teaching children how to think scientifically. And then the last one, summarize how learning in social studies is becoming more constructivist. Since everything is now set, we will now begin. So I will begin the discussion by revisiting the concept of expertise and exploring the distinction between expert knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge, the kind of knowledge that teachers like Wendy Nelson Kaufman used to teach effectively. We notice that sometimes individuals who are experts in the content of a particular area, such as mathematics or biology, aren't good at teaching it in ways that help others learn it effectively. These individuals have expert knowledge but lack pedagogical content knowledge. Let's examine the difference between the two types of knowledge. What is an expert knowledge? Expert knowledge is referred to as subject matter knowledge, which means an excellent knowledge about the content of a particular discipline. This is according to Erickson and others in 2016. Clearly, expert knowledge is important. How can teachers teach students something that they don't understand themselves? That's from Burden and Beard in 2016. Too often, experts don't communicate all of the information and steps necessary for students to learn something about the content of a particular discipline. That's according to Bransford, Darling, Hammond, and LePage in 2005. What teachers need in addition to expert knowledge is the pedagogical content knowledge. So what is pedagogical content knowledge? Pedagogical content knowledge is referred to as knowledge about how to effectively teach a particular discipline, meaning it's more on the strategies that are used in delivering the lesson or the topic. Both expert knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge are required for being an expert teacher. Expert teachers know the structure of their disciplines, and this knowledge gives them the ability to create cognitive roadmaps that guide the assignments they give to the students, the assessments they use to evaluate students' progress, and the types of questions and answers they generate in class. Being an expert teacher in a particular discipline also involves being aware of which aspects of the discipline are especially difficult or easy for students to learn. That's according to Mayer and Alexander in 2017. So, we can be an expert teacher if we have expert knowledge and expert pedagogical content knowledge. Since we already know the difference between expert knowledge and expert pedagogical content knowledge, let's discuss how reading develops and discuss some useful approaches to teaching reading. How does a child develop reading skills? Let's take a view of what these two experts argue on reading development among children. According to Steve Stahl in 2002, the three main goals of reading instruction should be to help children automatically recognize words, comprehend text, become motivated to read, and appreciate reading. These goals are interrelated. If children cannot recognize words automatically, their comprehension suffers. If they cannot comprehend the text, they are unlikely to be motivated to read it. According to Rich Mayer in 2004 and 2008, his focus on the cognitive processes a child needs to go through in order to read a printed word. First is being aware of sound units in words, which consists recognizing phonemes. 2. Decoding words, which involves converting printed words to sounds. And then the third one is accessing word meaning, which consists of finding a mental representation of words' meaning. So how do children develop the reading skills that Stahl and Mayer describe? What is the best way to teach children to read? How can children construct their reading skills? These are among the main questions that we will examine in our coverage of reading. As we discuss these questions, you will see that teachers play a key role in the development of children's reading skills. There are 5 stages in reading development according to Stahl. The age boundaries are approximate and do not apply to every child. The first stage is what we call the 0 stage. This is from birth to first grade. They identify letters of the alphabet and learn to write one's name. The second stage is the stage 1. In first and second grade, they learn to sound out words and complete learning of letter names and sounds. And then the next stage, which is called the 2, it is in second and third grade. Become more fluent at retrieving individual words and other reading skills. The fourth stage is in the 4th through 8th grade. Increasingly obtain new information from print and shift from learning to read to reading to learn. And then the 5th is in high school. Become a fully competent reader and understand material from different perspectives. You see the stages? It begins from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 stages, but it's numbered 0 to 4. So remember that the age boundaries in Stahl's model are approximate and do not apply to every child. Yes, of course, because there are already kids who are in first grade or from this first stage. They can not only identify letters of the alphabet, but some can already read. So this really does not apply to every child. However, the stages convey a sense of the developmental changes involved in becoming a competent reader, which means from as the learner grows, the skills are developed and developed and developed. Now, what could be the best approach to teaching children how to read? There are education and language experts who continue to debate how children should be taught to read. Let us try to compare phonics approach and the whole language approach. Phonics approach, it emphasizes that reading instruction should focus on phonics and basic rules for translating written symbols into sounds and give children simplified materials for early reading instruction. And then, the phonics approach needs to be emphasized, especially in kindergarten and first grade. Research indicates that phonological awareness instruction is especially effective when it is combined with letter training and as part of a total literacy program. So we begin to teach them the sounds of the letters of the alphabet. Effective phonological awareness training mainly involves two skills: blending and segmentation. Children's reading also benefits from guided oral reading instruction in reading strategies. Whereas the whole language approach stresses that reading instruction should parallel children's natural language learning and give children whole language materials such as books and poems. Researchers have found that phonics instruction is a key aspect of teaching students to read, especially beginning readers and students with weak reading skills. The teacher plays a very vital role in this stage. The teacher must have that pedagogy and patience in doing this. The whole language approach is likely more effective in stage 2 of child's stage. Okay, so now let's take a look also what the cognitive approach and social constructivist approach can offer in teaching reading. Cognitive approach to reading emphasize decoding and comprehending words, building on prior knowledge, and developing expert reading strategies. This goes with Mayer. The metacognitive strategies and automatic processes are involved in decoding and comprehending words. Prior knowledge about a topic can help students make correct inferences about material they read. Transactional strategy instruction is one approach to helping students to learn. It is advised that self-monitoring of reading should be strategized in this approach. Now, in the social constructivist approaches, they stress that the social context plays an important part in helping children learn to read, and that meaning is socially negotiated. Reciprocal teaching can help students improve their reading, and we do this in our classes. Pair reading, group reading, like that. Recognition of school, family, community connections to reading also reflects the social constructivist perspective. So, family or school community connections important also in developing their reading skills. We also do this in our classes like pair reading, group reading. This is done to help learners who struggles in reading. So, the social constructivist approach. For me, we can use all the approaches presented in teaching reading. We just match it with our learners. If our learner learn from that certain approach, then use it. There is no single approach in learning. That's for teaching reading. Now, how about writing? How does writing develop? Let's find out. College instructors report that 50% of high school graduates are not prepared for college-level writing. That's according to Achieve Incorporated in 2005. As with reading, teachers play a critical role in students' development of writing. So their skills there must be developed like the writing skills should be developed just like the reading skills. The observations of classrooms made by Michael Presley and his colleagues in 2007 revealed that students became good writers when teachers spent considerable time on writing instruction and were passionate about teaching students to write. So that really proves that it is very important that the teacher should have that passion in teaching children or the learners.
Like reading, children's writing follows a developmental timetable emerging out of scribbling. Most 4-year-olds can print their name. Most 5-year-olds can reproduce letters and copy several short words. Advances in children's language skills and cognitive development provide the foundation for improved writing. Like becoming a good reader, becoming a good writer takes many years and lots of practice. Children should be given many writing opportunities during their elementary and secondary school years. As their language and cognitive skills improve with good instruction, so will their writing skills. For example, developing a more sophisticated understanding of syntax and grammar serves as an underpinning for better writing. So, do such cognitive skills as organization and logical reasoning. That's why if you can remember during our elementary years, we are really taught to make sentences or write our own sentences, and then as we go on, the grammar is being taught. Because a good writing has a good grammar. Through elementary, middle, and high school, students develop increasingly sophisticated methods of organizing their ideas. In early elementary school, they narrate and describe or write short poems. In late elementary and middle school, they move to projects such as book reports that combine narration with more reflection and analysis. In high school, they become more skilled at forms of exposition that do not depend on narrative structure. A meta-analysis or the use of statistical techniques to combine the results of studies revealed that the following interventions were the most effective in improving the writing quality of 4th through 12th grade students. First is the strategy instruction. And then the second one, summarization. 3, peer assistance. And 4, setting goals.
What are the cognitive approaches in writing? Cognitive approaches to writing emphasize many of the same themes as for reading, such as constructing meaning and developing strategies. So there are different strategies suggested, and these are, the first one is planning. It includes outlining and organizing content information, and then the problem solving, the making of meaning. So it includes the grammar, the purpose of writing, and considering your audience in writing. The third is revising. So what are you going to revise? You're going to detect and correct the errors. And the errors are, of course, detected by your teacher, and then detected by the teacher. And then the students will just correct their errors. And then in the metacognitive strategy, it is monitoring one's writing and being receptive to one's feedback. That's very important. Let us always, or children or learners should always be positive in feedbacks.
While social constructivist approaches to writing focuses on the social context in which writing is produced, this social context includes the importance of students participating in a writing community to understand author or reader relationships and grasp perspectives of others. So these are the suggested strategies in teaching writing according to the constructivist. The first is the real text writing. This is a writing about personally meaningful situations. So learners will write a real text, meaning it is based on their personal experiences. And the next, the teacher-student writing conferences. This is the teacher's support to students' writing. Example, if the teacher has given the student the activity on the real text writing, now the teacher shall give support to that writing, especially when it comes to the emotional situation or emotional aspect, I should say. The peer collaboration and editing. This is giving and receiving feedbacks in a certain group. So this is group activity wherein they're going to critique each output like that. And then in school community connections, this is connecting students writing to community, just like identifying a good writer or a person in their community and write something about that. We have many options that we could use in developing the reading and writing skills of our learners. So we just choose the best or the most appropriate to among our learners. We cannot insist on a strategy that they cannot learn from it.
Now at this point, let's discuss math education. Just like reading and writing, there are also developmental stages of math. Children have a substantial understanding of numerical concepts before they enter first grade. When they go to school, children learn more advanced numerical skills. So the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics has developed standards for learning mathematics at these grade levels. So, the first is from kindergarten through grade 2. This is base 10 numeration system, and for grade 3 to 5, multiplicative reasoning, equivalence, and computational fluency. Next stage is the grade 6 through grade 8. What skills developed in this stage is the mathematical reasoning, algebra, and geometry. And for grade 9 through grade 12, it's on the interplay of algebra, geometry, statistics, probability, and discrete mathematics. The way children think about mathematics and their math abilities are developed at different grade levels. So it's not possible that they develop their skill one at a time. So there are really different stages in the development of this mathematical skills of our learners. Now there is this controversy in math. Currently, there is a controversy in math education about whether math should be taught using cognitive, conceptual, and constructivist approach or a practice-oriented computational approach. The National Research Council in 2005 concluded that conceptual understanding, procedural fluency, effective organization of knowledge, and metacognitive strategies are important processes in learning math. Teaching math with only an emphasis on procedural competency results in students having too little conceptual understanding, and students who have too little knowledge of procedures often do not solve math problems competently. So, that means students need to develop both conceptual understanding of math and procedural competency in math. So they should learn.
Cognitive processes. Among the cognitive processes involved in math are conceptual understanding, knowledge of math procedures, effective organization of knowledge, and metacognitive strategies and mindset. These are all important in learning math. Now, for some constructivist principles, they include making math education more realistic and interesting, making connections to students' prior knowledge, and making the math curriculum socially interactive. So your math class should be lively like that everybody is participating. So according to some expert teachers. Math classes should be exciting and fun-filled among learners.
Now, what's the role of technology in math instruction? One issue in math education is how technology intensive it should be. The NTCM's curriculum and evaluation standards recommends that calculators be used at all levels of mathematical instruction and that students' access to computers also is necessary. However, some education experts argue that, as in East Asia, calculators should not be used prior to high school to improve students' ability to learn math concepts. Unlike in the US, teachers, Japanese and Chinese teachers do not allow the everyday use of calculators or computers in mathematics classes because they want to make sure that students understand the concepts and operations required to solve problems. Some critics argue that the American emphasis on the early use of technology prevents students from gaining experience in manipulating concrete objects, experience that is essential for learning mathematical concepts. That's according to Stevenson in 2001. Only at the high school level, after students have developed a clear understanding of mathematical concepts, are East Asian students allowed to use calculators for solving mathematical problems. And that's the case here in the Philippines. In the elementary math, or learners from the elementary level do not use calculators. We do not allow our students to use calculators because we want them to learn math concepts. But then for high school, it is already allowed. And do you think teachers in Asia are wise not to allow young students to use calculators? Or should the United States follow this example? Well, make it as your reflection, especially those who teach math. So let us proceed now to science education. Our examination of science focuses on these questions. What are some key ideas in educating students about science? What are some constructive strategies for teaching science? So, science teachers, what should we do? What is science education? Scientists say that science classes should regularly make careful observations, collect, organize, and analyze data, measure, graph, and understand special relations, pay attention to and regulate their own thinking, and know when and how to apply their knowledge to solve problems. That's according to Lever and Scoble in 2015. Since there is a significant shortage of qualified science teachers in middle and high school education in the United States, too often the skills that scientists use, such as careful observation, graphing, self-regulatory thinking, and knowing when and how to apply one's knowledge to solve problems, are not routinely taught in schools. Children have many misconceptions that are incompatible with science and reality. Good teachers perceive and understand a child's underlying concepts, then use the concepts as a scaffold for learning. Good teachers perceive and understand a child's underlying concepts, then use the concepts as a scaffold for learning. That's according to De Rosa and Abroscato in 2015. Effective science teaching helps children distinguish between fruitful errors and misconceptions, and then detect plainly wrong ideas that need to be replaced by more accurate conceptions, by Edwards and others in 2017. That's how we teach science here in the Philippines. Science is a discovery. It's teaching from inquiry. It's an inquiry based. Science is an inquiry based instruction where children themselves or our learners themselves develop or discover what the lesson is about or what they are learning.
What are the constructivist teaching strategies? Constructivist teaching strategies include an emphasis on discovery learning. However, teachers need to supply guidance and feedback and be consultants as children construct scientifically valid interpretations of the world. Many science teachers help their students construct their knowledge of science through guided discovery. Effective science education emphasizes inquiry and science content knowledge.
Now we're down to the last discipline. What is social studies? The field of social studies seeks to promote civic competence. In schools, social studies draws from disciplines such as anthropology, economics, geography, history, law, philosophy, political science, psychology, religion, and sociology. There are 10 themes recommended to be used for units and courses in social studies by the National Council for Social Sciences.
Number one is time, continuity, and change. Students need to understand their historical roots and locate themselves in time. Knowing how to effectively read about and construct the past helps students to explore questions such as how am I connected to the past? And how can my personal experience be viewed as part of the larger human story across time? This is history courses. Next is people, places, and environments. The study of these topics helps students to develop special and geographical perspectives on the world. Armed with this knowledge, students are better equipped to make informed and competent decisions about the relationship of humans to their environment. In schools, this theme usually appears in units and courses linked to geography. Number three theme is the individual development and identity. A student's personal identity is shaped by culture, groups, and institutions. Students can explore such questions as who am I? How do people learn, think, and develop? And how do people meet their needs in a variety of contexts? In schools, this theme usually appears in units and courses focused on psychology and anthropology. Now, the fourth theme is individuals, groups, and institutions. In here, students need to learn about the ways in which schools, churches, families, government, agencies, and the courts play integral roles in people's lives. Students can explore the roles of various institutions in the United States and other countries. In schools, this theme typically appears in units and courses on sociology, anthropology, psychology, political science, and history. Number five, power, authority, and governance. Understanding the development of power, authority, and governance in the United States and other parts of the world is essential for developing civic competence. In this theme, students explore such topics as the following: what is power and what forms does it take? How do people gain power, use it, and justify it? How can people keep their government responsive to their needs and interests? How can conflicts within a nation and between nations be resolved? This theme typically appears in units and courses focused on government, political science, history, and other social sciences. The number 6, production, distribution, and consumption. People have needs and desires that sometimes exceed the limited resources that are available to them. As a result, questions such as this are raised. What is to be produced? How is production be organized? How are goods and services distributed? What is the most effective allocation of production, land, capital, and management? Increasingly, these questions are global in scope. So in schools, this theme typically appears in units and courses focused on economics. And then number 7, theme. Science, technology, and society. Modern life, as we know, it would be impossible without technology and the science that supports it. However, technology raises many questions. Is newer technology always better? How can people effectively cope with rapid technological advances? How are values related to technology? This theme appears in units and courses involving history, geography, economics, civics, and government. Next, number 8, global connections. The reality of increasing interdependence among nations requires an understanding of nations and cultures around the world. Conflicts between national and global priorities can involve healthcare, economic development, environmental equality, universal human rights, and other agendas. This theme typically appears in units and courses involving geography, culture, economics, and other social sciences. Number 9, civic ideals and practices. Understanding civic ideals and the practices of citizenship is important for full participation in society. Students focus on such questions as this. What is civic participation and how can I be involved? What is the balance between individual needs and community responsibilities? So in schools, this theme typically appears in units and courses involving history, political science, and anthropology. And the 10th theme is culture. The study of culture prepares students to ask and answer questions such as this. How are cultures similar and different? What is the best way to interact with people who are from cultures that are different from your own? How does religion influence the beliefs of people in different cultures? In schools, the theme of culture typically appears in units and courses that focus on geography, history, and anthropology, as well as multicultural topics that cut across the curriculum. We further explore teaching about culture and cultural diversity by examining the study of UN peacekeeping next generations. We also have these constructivist approaches in teaching social studies. Many social studies classes continue to be taught in a traditional lecture format, but there is increasing interest in teaching these classes from a constructivist perspective. Some constructivist strategies are varied sources of information, the importance of greater reflection, understanding, meaning, peer collaboration, critical thinking about values, and sustained examination of a few important topics rather than superficial coverage of many topics. Not just like before, that in teaching social studies or Araling Panlipunan in Filipino, our teachers before will just let us memorize dates, the person in this date, the very important person in that date, something like that. More on the memorization of the dates and the persons and the places like that. But constructivist approaches do not do that. It's more on involving ourselves. Just like if ever I will be there. For example, you are teaching history. If ever I was there, what would I feel, something like that. And then we relate it to our present time these days, just like if you are studying the life of Dr. Jose Rizal or some heroes. So in your class, you're gonna in constructivist approach, you will do the involving your self in that lesson or in that history. You are going to say like this: in your area or in your community, do you have someone that you consider Jose Rizal or your hero? In what way this person is your hero? Something like that. That's the approaches that we use now in teaching social studies. We do not just memorize, but we involve ourselves.
Now, choosing between cognitive and constructivist approaches in teaching the five disciplines depend on the learners. We cannot insist a certain strategy to all learners. Remember individual differences. Whatever strategy is effective to our learners, then we'll use it. Teach them the way they learn. Let's also not stick on one strategy alone all throughout the school year that we teach. Let us use varied strategies and differentiated instructions. We can be all expert teachers. Let's embrace changes and, of course, improve ourselves and open a room for development, because the more that we improve ourselves as teachers, the better the result to our learners. This ends my discussion. Let us all continue to learn. God bless us all. Bye bye.